Michael Mansfield. I'm have the great honor and privilege of being the one who organizes Main Media on a day-to-day basis and works with a really exceptionally talented staff and team and one of the most beautiful communities of artists anywhere. I'm really thrilled to be here, joined by Joyce Tenneson for today's lecture, as well as you see her waving there, as well as Ken Shure and Lee Rockefeller, who are the creators behind PondsPress and the originators, the catalyst of the gold trees. We'll have an opportunity to talk with them as well. We're also joined by Claire Milliken, our esteemed poet, who contributed such beautiful words to the work. And we'll have a moment to hear from her in this. We are also joined by Annalie Scar, who is the designer who really put the words and images together on the page and has been, deeply involved with PondsPress for a long time. So thank you, Annalie, for joining us. I am really thrilled to have you. This is we've been looking forward to this presentation for some time. It's been such a privilege to work with Joyce. She's been here with Main Media really since its inception, and has had just an outsized influence on the work that's created here and the inspiration for students. And it's really remarkable. She's had such a big influence on all of the disciplines that are offered on campus. We teach photography workshops and work with students on making images and the inspiration behind them. We also have a creative writing program that is represented in many of the programs on campus, and certainly represented in the book that Ken and Lee have produced with Joyce. And we also have a book arts program in the Charles Altschul Book Art Studio. And that studio, of course, is really built upon the creative ambitions that Ken and Lee have really represented at PondsPress. And they've been incredibly supportive of that program and the students and the work that we have in there, and the guests and the artists that we invite to Camden. I mean, it's an important endeavor, and I couldn't be more thankful for the work that they do to help us advance that program. So, as many of you know, Gold Trees is represented in an exhibition that was curated by Annalie Scar in the Haas Reception Gallery on campus. I hope if you are in Rockport that you can come by the gallery and walk through the show. You'll have an opportunity to see the book, but also all of the work that's behind it and its connection, the intersections that it has with the other disciplines on campus. It's a great show. We have some original artworks on the wall by Joyce, as well as the book itself. So I really encourage you to come by and have a walk through. That exhibition space was really generously supported by a grateful and anonymous student, but that space has been transformative. We have been able to organize multiple exhibitions in there. Later this summer, we'll be marking the inauguration of our Hamilton Dark Rooms, opening in June. We will have an artist in residence making photographs there in the dark room, Shana and Robert Park Harrison, really exercising the possibilities of the gelatin silver space and opening that space up. And they will be featured in an exhibition in the Haas Reception Gallery immediately following Joyce's show there now. And we will close the season this year with a tour through the work of Paul Caponegro, who of course has also had an outsized influence on image making on campus. And I'm really looking forward to all of the exhibitions that we have on campus this year. But this is a fantastic year for photography there in the gallery. So as I said earlier, I'm really thrilled to be joined by Joyce, Claire, Lee, and Ken, as well as Annalie. Joyce needs really no introduction, but I'm going to offer one anyway, as insufficient as it might be. She is internationally lauded as one of the leading photographers of her generation. Her work has been published in books and major magazines and exhibited in museums and galleries worldwide. Her portraits have appeared on covers of magazines such as Life, Time, Newsweek, Premier Esquire and the New York Times Magazine. She's the author of 16 books, including the bestseller Wise Women, which was featured in a 6-part Today Show series. She's also the recipient of many awards, including the Fine Art Photographer of the Year Award in 2005, the Lifetime Achievement Award for Professional Photographers of America in 2012. In a poll conducted by the American Photo Magazine, readers voted Tenneson as the 10 most influential women in the history of photography. And she is, of course, the remarkable inspiration for the gold trees, which we're talking about today. I wanted to open with you, Joyce, and just give you a moment to recognize this and us to recognize you, and give you a moment to talk about your work and say hello to everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Michael. That was a very generous and nice introduction. I am here to have fun with you today, and I hope to open up the idea of trees a little bit more, rather than just seeing them all as beautiful and what have you. I realized that they really have a similar lifestyle, life cycle to us. I mean, we're young, all of our muscles, we're running and all of this, and then all of a sudden stuff happens in life, as you know, and the cycle of life continues. And just like a tree has a limb that doesn't work anymore, and they are really like people, and I wish you will look at them differently after today. The other thing that I really was hoping to do is to show you a little bit about my journey. I just became fascinated in history of art by like Byzantine icons, and throughout the Renaissance, the use of gold. And so I set out to actually make my own gold leafing. And if you can see them, see the edging on that? I hope you can see a little bit. It's sort of falling off, and I had this piece that I picked up in my studio today, and the fact that some of the gold is like this is in the wind here. I love, because it shows the process and the fact that I really wanted to delve deep into the early parts of gold leafing. Now, should we allow them to stay to say, have some questions and stuff?
No, let's hold those to the end, but
okay.
Let's talk more about how the gold leaf came in, but what about the treatment of gold in your trees?
Yes, I really hope you'll see the complexity of the trees, and that they are very much like your own families. And because just as we change and we grow and we hope that we become wiser and what have you, we also have challenges, and all of those things make a very exciting and complex kind of energy that I see when I walk and through the woods and look at trees.
And do you want to?
No.
Sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Well, I was going to say, I know that in looking at the original works that we have on the wall, there are a couple of, you can really see the texture of the gold leafing behind the image and the support that it provides in the sky and in the ground and in the trees. I was curious if you could talk a little bit about talk about the first instance, the first time you used an image on gold leaf. How did that come about? How did you invent that process for yourself? And what did you see in that was really exciting?
I had done some traveling, and I realized that in many cultures, gold was a symbol of care and interest in bringing beauty to a closer space where we could see it. For example, like the Byzantine icons, for example, or the Buddhas, or all of these entities that we have seen. And there's just something magical about gold, and it has been that way in the history of photography for time immemorial. And I think it's exciting to be able to see gold trees like this. And certainly in Ken's book and
Our book.
your book, their book, yes. I think that has been a big mission of yours, is to open this up so that everybody can see gold and the content that is being shown in a deeper way.
And I think we should also point out that, the golden anniversary is 50 years, and this is the golden anniversary of Joyce's first show at the Corcoran Gallery in Washington, D.C. So we're calling this Joyce's Golden Jubilee Gold Tree Project. And do you want to talk about how what that exhibition meant for you and how that came about? This is the origin story of all of this.
It is really quite amazing that I did have my first one-person show at the Corcoran 50 years ago. And I actually did a lot of self-portraits and a lot of complex kinds of portraits with, and I also had nature in them. So I did a lot of self-portraits lying in I used to go to Dunbarton Gardens since I was teaching at the Corcoran, and near that beautiful space. And that really, being able to go to Dunbarton Gardens, because I lived in a small apartment at that point, made my life so much richer. And I just loved it so much. And I hope someday I can show you a whole group of those pictures. Maybe we'll set something up, Michael, so we can delve into those earlier times when I was in my 20s.
And the frontispiece.
I know. I was just going to say, I know a great space where we can organize another show.
Well, great.
I don't know if
Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
I don't know if Vonley can bring up the frontispiece portrait, but it is a self-portrait of Joyce 50 years ago in Dunbarton Oaks, which is actually quite a beautiful piece, which is combining both blue and gold, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I don't have that on my slide presentation. It is
Of course.
Yeah.
You'll have to come to the exhibition to see it.
That's right.
But I can leave. I'm curious if I know that Two Ponds has, of course, published some really remarkable artist books. They are works of art, and this collaboration between Claire and Joyce is no different. Can you talk a little bit about Two Ponds and this project, how it came about?
Well, I'd say it all goes back to Maine Media, which at the time was what was it called originally? The
Maine Photo Workshop.
Maine Photo
Photographers.
And in 1977, I opened up an antique shop in downtown Rockport called the Goose River Exchange. And we started off first selling trunks and other antique items, but since Maine Photo Workshop was down the street, we became the models for many of their students, we call them the blue dots, because for those of you who are in the digital age, we used to use flash bulbs, which had blue dots on them. And that sparked our interest in photography and collecting images, vintage images. We ran the shop for over 40 years. We ended up in Camden at the end, but it was through that experience and our exposure to the workshops at that point that the interest in photography developed. And when we embarked on this project of PondsPress, which will be 15 years old next year, we began with more traditional artist books that were incorporating text and image, but the images tended to be etchings, woodcuts. But because of Joyce and the Caponegros and Sig Harvey and Jacob Hessler and all the photographers in the area, we sort of felt this is an opportunity for us to expand our offering in PondsPress and include these sort of giants in the field of photography. They're friends of ours, but they've had an outsized influence on us and on the development of using photographs in private press work. And since we're the publishers, we're not the artists, we put these collaborations together and these sort of fell into our lap. So I would say Maine Media had an outsized role, but it all sort of developed organically due to our exposure to pardon the pun, to the photographic world out there.
I think the pun is appreciated here, of all places. Um, I want to introduce Claire Milliken, of course, who has had made such a really wonderful contribution to this piece, both in the individual responses to images, but also in the forward, the afterword. Um, Claire Milliken, of course, is a poet and a scholar. She's originally from Georgia, but we'll forgive her because she lives in Maine now, in coastal Maine, no less. She's the author of 10 poetry collections, including Magic Cicada, a 2025 finalist for the Forward Indies Award. Milliken's recognitions also include an Independent Press Award, Distinguished Favorite, and the Charles Simmons Prize, as well as Editor's Choice, publishing under the last name Raymond. Claire is the author of 10 books on photography theory and visual culture, including Women Photographers and Feminist Aesthetics. She teaches art history and writing for the University of Maine system. Claire, I'd love to, let you say hello to everybody and maybe offer a word or two on what this was, how you responded to this project and the opportunity and what really came to mind as you were working on it.
Yeah, well, I'm so honored to be here with Joyce and Ken and Leave, such incredible people. And yeah, I mean, I was drawn into the project through Suzette McAvoy, which is probably the best way to be drawn into anything. And I already knew Joyce, and more importantly, I already knew these photographs. I remember seeing them, I think it was maybe 10 or 12 years ago, before I had any familiarity with Joyce, and just being really, they knocked my socks off. They're incredible images. And so for me, it's just a special privilege because I am, right, a poet, and I'm not technically an art historian because my PhD is in English literature, but ever since discovering photography, writing, that is all I've done. So I, approached it really from both perspectives. And, I think now I could speak a little bit more about the art history side of that perspective, because, a lot of my work in scholarship has been around feminist photography, and Joyce is such a path breaker. She really forged a style that is her own in a context where there is a lot of pressure to, even for a successful woman photographer, of which there were few when she was coming along, to sort of mimic or flow with a more, well, flow is probably the wrong word, but like whatever, assent to a more sort of mainstream style. But she created her own, and I think that's why she's in that list of influential photographers. Gold Trees in particular are my favorite of all her work. And that's saying a lot. So I'm fascinated by the way, and I don't want to run on about this, but the way that they sort of use the strengths of black and white photography and the strengths of color photography, right? I mean, it's a kind of unique blend where you get like the structural power of black and white photography, because that's sort of what they are, but you also get the emotive power of color, right, through the gold leaf. And so they really do have this sublime effect. I mean, I think in the afterword, I compared them to Gustave Le Gray's photographs in the forest of Fontainebleau, those beautiful images from the 1850s. And, her work has that technical virtuosity. And I mean, it's hard to beat Gustave Le Gray, but adding the gold brings a level of emotion, and that one might say is a kind of feminine. I would want to really, kind of say more about that. Like I don't want to be, have these generic terms of feminine, but there is an emotional force to that gold that I think makes the images. I would say, yeah, if you can see them in person, they're extraordinary. And just to wrap up here, Ken and Leave's book brings that right into the space of a book, and so it's quite a remarkable thing. So I was just very, very pleased to be, have the chance to work with someone
And
who's
we were very pleased to have our beautiful Claire as part of our whole, wonderful experience doing this book. This would be, I think, maybe a good time for me to pop in and tell you how I found the gold trees. I had come from New York. I had been doing mostly work that I felt I had wound up while I was in New York. And then I was, had experienced a kind of a death or something and I wondered if I'd ever really find something that I was as excited about as I had when I was in New York and doing my other books. And then I woke up one morning and I looked out, and there I saw these birch trees in the fog in front of my bedroom window. And I just had this huge epiphany, and I thought, Joyce, oh my God, here it is. This is your next book. And it was right out front all this time. And so, and I had have a wonderful partner, Jim Abbott, and we would get into the car at 4 o'clock, 4:30, sometimes, and go out. I remember going down Julie Colley's long driveways. A lot of you know that space, and and the mist it made those trees shimmer in ways that I had never seen before. And I just started photographing things that I had never seen before. And it was as simple as that. I think when this cycle for artists is that we can't always be on, we can't always be creating new things. But when I realized that my trees are a lot like wise women, that I think you probably know, has been my best seller. And because I think it is an opportunity to get to know different facets of other people, and for me, the trees also, so that I do see them very much like portraits, and that are constantly changing. If anyone has a question or something, no.
Well, and just
Well, I want to, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to clarify, when she says 4:30, she's talking in the morning.
Right.
That's right.
So there are really these beautiful, the kind of very early morning light.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I do want to. I want to turn it over to Annalie for a moment so that she can walk us through a bit of a tour of the book itself, so that you can see that. And then I think we may be able to pause on a couple of slides to hear some of the words that Claire has put together in response and in relationship to the images. Annalie?
Great, thank you. I've had the pleasure of being able to design this project. And one of the things that, Liev and Ken always talk about with PondsPress is that it's a celebration of collaboration. There's a lot of people involved in making these beautiful, beautiful books. Of course, it's the beautiful work of Joyce. It's the beautiful words of Claire, but there's also we have some amazing collaborators that are part of this process. And, we have Art Larson of Horton Tank Graphics, who did the letterpress of this book with just beautiful letterpress on this beautiful paper, the Reader's BFK, 280-gram paper, gorgeous. And Joseph Blazar, who of Blazing Editions, who did the prints for the archival dye sublimation onto both aluminum and also the Hanamulla 340 GSM paper that's in the book. Just all these wonderful craftspeople who are involved, and of course, last but not least, our unbelievable bookbinder Amy Barezzo of Shelter Bookworks, who as you will see as I show you some of the images of this book, did an unbelievable, she does a lot of work for PondsPress, is really a master in her field, and has done just a beautiful job with gold trees. Anyway, I'm going to share my screen and show you some images and show some of the spreads from this book and some of the process behind it. And also, I'm going to stop at a couple of spots on these spreads to allow Claire to read some of the poetry on 3 of these spreads, showing some of the images from Joyce's work here. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can do this as well as I did in our.
And I would just want to say it takes a village in the end, like every
It
wonderful.
does take a village. Okay, here is showing you the spine of the book and the case. This beautiful book is in a gorgeous case with this leather spine that is really sort of emulating, you know, I felt sort of the bark of a tree. It sort of has this very grounding feel, this leather. And the paper that it is bound in is this brilliant gold. And it's we have sort of a funny story with this, is we actually had planned to do a completely different it was actually a book cloth that was going to go on this book originally that we all loved, that was sort of a bluish gold book cloth. And you know, we made a prototype, you know, Amy made a prototype of it and everything, and then we went to produce the book and they were completely out of this book cloth. Crisis. And we did a lot of research to find an alternative and discovered this paper that ended up being, I think, you know, 150 times better solution. It was one of those very fortunate, you know, things that happen, you know, where it could have been something that we panicked about, but it ended up creating a much better result. It's a brilliant gold book. You open the case and it's just this glowing book that meets you as you open that case. Here is a photo of Joyce in the PondsPress library with her assistant, Nina Poole. You know, a lot of the, you know, beginnings of this book is about discussing the sequencing of the images. What images will be included, which won't be included? What do we want the look and feel of this book to be? Playing around with ideas and brainstorming, and you know, everyone coming up with ideas, and it's a really fun process before it sort of lands on. Here's Joyce showing some images that she's chosen. One of the things that I think is sort of extraordinary about this book is that I believe all these images that are in the book are from Maine. And the way that Joyce has treated these images, it feels otherworldly. It's Maine, but it's this magical view of Maine, and which it just makes it so special. Anyway, here we are in the studio where we're playing around. We played around with a lot of different concepts. We were looking at leaves. We were looking at pulling out textures from her photos to use in graphic elements. A lot of brainstorming, a lot of play happening. I ended up doing some drawings because we wanted to have some fleurons throughout the book. It's sort of nice with a photography book to have some hand-drawn elements, just because it adds another layer. So we did some drawings of fleurons that you'll see were used in the layout of the design of this book. Other details throughout the book, we used a marbled paper for the end papers and also for details within the case. I felt that this marbled paper really had the feel of these sort of rings on trees. And it also has these details of gold that run through the paper. So it was a perfect, you know, sort of a complement to the images throughout the book. There's so many tactile, visual elements throughout the book that sort of, you know, help to present and sort of magnify the effect of the book and your experience of the book, and support the narrative of the book. So just showing some details here. This is the first spread here. I'm going to sort of run through these so you can see the design. All these images are represented by Roman numerals with Claire's writing, this acrostic poetry where she's responded to the images. And then you see all these little fleurons, the hand-drawn fleurons are included in this letterpress design as well. And we used a paper that was slightly toned. It was a cream-colored paper. It wasn't a white paper. We felt that the cream color really sort of was softer. It sort of highlighted the gold better than a crisp white paper would. So a lot of choices to help present the work. I'm going to go through here, and the first spread that Claire is going to be reading from is number 4. So which is this. And I'm going to invite Claire to read this, and I'm going to actually show you close-up of those images while she reads.
Yeah, so just chiming with Joyce's discussion of the life cycle of trees and human life cycles, the sequence of poems that I wrote actually trace a sort of, as one would say, a ghost narrative of a life cycle. So in number 4, a child who has been born earlier in the sequence is now, old enough to hold apples. And so I'll read the section. By the ocean, a defunct orchard. The child small and new then, and as we held him up to touch apples, ocean sent light through our hands and the branches, so that ocean's tears became our tears, a mystic turn, purifying this place behind a rusted fence, outlasting circumstance, golden apples, ours, not ours.
Beautiful. I love it so much. Thank you.
There. I'll move along here and show some of these other images here.
This is one of my favorites.
It's sort of those birches that you talked about earlier, Joyce. The birch, which is so Maine too.
It is so Maine.
And here's number 7, and Claire is going to read this poem as well. It's from this image. And Claire, I'm going to invite you to read your poem.
So at this point in the sequence, it's really picking up Joyce's idea of the trees as portraits, and I thought of them as she speaks of as portraits of women. Not all the trees, but these trees. So this section goes, the sun is the widest river that swallows time. Grandmother, mother, great-grandmother, sister, walk as ourselves in the river of the sun. Sometimes I want to step away from my body, start again as an ant, an oak branch, an oven bird, bearing a coat of light. But I wear only this human form. In the river of the sun, a forest of oaks, as trees are icons of the soul. And there's a reason I said oaks, because I know the trees we're looking at aren't oaks. But anyone who ever wants to ask me about that, I'll say. But I love this image.
I love it, and what you had to say. Thank you.
Here's number 8. We have a large version of this image in the gallery at Maine Media right now, which is really beautiful to see it large, but also see it small like this in the book.
Just moments of pure beauty that just happen. And
Just beautiful. And the sequencing is really beautiful as well, I think, that Joyce did here. And then the last reading we'll do is for number 12. Claire, do you like to read this poem for us?
Yeah, so I was just going to quickly say the sequence also, I wanted to draw on all the myths about the intersection of human beings and trees. So Ovid and Dante and Tasso And this particular section, because as Annalee and Joyce have spoken of, these are all trees in Maine. So it does reference the Passamaquoddy origin story that the first man, and of course the Passamaquoddy have been in Maine, forever. The first man emerged from an ash tree. So that's what this section references. A forest is sky's burial. Through it, the celestial sun draws rivers, Westgig, Medincook, Madomick, tributaries leafing with gold, the oak, the aspen, and the ash from which the first man emerged. Silk water of Maguntacook, be patient in rebirth. It is only the heart that flies toward the sun.
That's so wonderful.
So much to ruminate about after we, for the rest of the day and tomorrow.
I wanted to let PondsPress speak a little bit about, for those of you who are not familiar with fine press books and artist books and where they end up after they've been created, these small editions, in this case, 40 books that were created. If you can and Lee want to talk about, who this is and where these books end up and the value and where they end up, that would be great.
So this is just this past February at the Miami Tropic Band Book Fair. And this is often how we present the books, is at these big fine press book fairs. And that wonderful glowing woman in the middle of us, same color as the binding, is Stephanie Stillo, who is the head of special collections at the Library of Congress. She's still in her role there, thank goodness. So that this book lives at the Library of Congress right now, among other great institutions.
So it's of great concern is what is happening at the Library of Congress. Now, we're going to be meeting with Stephanie next weekend at a Codex function out in California. So we'll get a little more insight into what's happened after the great purge of our nation's librarian, or the Congress's librarian. But anyway, as Lee's pointed out, this is the way that we get the work out there, and it's really a major portion of what we produce ends up in libraries where they are used by as many people as possible. They're used for teaching, they're used for study, and these are tiny editions. We only did 25 copies of Gold Trees, but it's in Maine. It's here at the Bowdoin College Library. It's in a number of libraries across the country. And so even though these are small editions, and they're not just being cloistered into little private libraries, I'd say a good 80% of our editions end up in public institutions. So these collaborations have a greater life than their limited variety. They have a much wider audience. You want to add anything to that?
No, sounds good.
Okay.
That's wonderful, Ken. Thank you.
And one of the largest, this Tropic Bound book fair, we tend to only exhibit at book fairs that have the focus on fine printing and these artist books. And there's only a handful of them around the country. The Fine Press Book Association runs one in New York every April. But the big monster of them all is at the Codex every other year in the Bay Area. In 26, it'll be in Oakland. And I would urge anyone who has an interest in this field to try to attend. It'll be February of 26 in Oakland next year. But that is really, it's an international fair. It draws people from all over the world. And you get to see examples of this craft. And this is definitely a craft, in many cases represented mostly by the artists that are creating them. In our case, we are representing all the craftspeople, artists, and writers that are involved in these projects.
And I want to remind everyone that the show Gold Trees here at Maine Media is going to be up until June 6th. So please come and check it out. I also would not be doing my job here at Maine Media if I didn't mention that we have a couple of great workshops this summer that are not unrelated to this. We have a wonderful workshop on July 7th, which is modern orotones with Marcy Palmer, where you are actually working with photo and gold leaf. So very related to this, as well as a great history of the photo book on June 23rd, if you're interested. That's stuff you could find on our website. So Michael, if you want to.
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you, Annalie. You're doing a better job than I am at highlighting those really fantastic courses. The artist books program at Maine Media is pretty remarkable. So I hope you have a chance to come by and see what we're doing, walk through this exhibition, and take a class with us. I think the things that happen there are really magical. So I'd love to open it up for questions. If you have a question for Joyce or Claire or Annalie or Ken and Lee, please put it in the chat box here. The first question we have is whether or not this is going to be recorded. And I should have said this at the outset. It is indeed recorded. This presentation goes into our archive and will be available online and accessible for in perpetuity. But we have Nadine is asking, how do you decide the size of the print run, the print numbers for the books?
Yeah.
These, that's always a discussion that we have when it comes to every edition that we do. We have come to, because these are incredibly intensive projects and very expensive to produce, we tend to keep our print runs down because of the cost involved. And also, you know, we know kind of after, I've been doing this for many years now, and first started off with Leonard Baskin, his Gehenna Press, and he came to the conclusion after doing really large press runs in the hundreds of copies and being left over with hundreds of copies because they weren't sold, and really reduced the numbers into, you know, usually under 50 copies, in which case you could devote more time and energy and money to creating these beautiful works of art, which is what they are. And so I think we've now gotten to the point where our press runs are usually 50 copies or under. So there are a lot of considerations, both financial and artistic, that are involved in that decision.
Leonard Baskin called what we do the lunatic fringe of publishing. So we kind of straddle the world of books and art. It's a unique place to create work.
Excellent. Kent's asking, over what period of time did you make the tree portraits, Joyce? This question is for you. Over what span of time are the trees representing?
Well, it's been, gosh, many years, and I'm still photographing them. I still am awe-inspired from time to time when I'm on a walk or and find something that I've never seen before. And I think that's the exciting thing I hope everyone gets from today's kind of our excitement about the fact that trees are real people. They are like, and that they're as exciting as real people are, and they keep changing, and they keep morphing, and so it's never.
And you've been doing it for a half a century at least.
I have been.
Yeah. Almost as old as a tree.
Absolutely. It's the same, I think, as people. I mean, I just can't imagine life without having these relationships and meeting people and having a good number of them be a part of life or memories of life that are so, you know, wonderful.
It was hard to choose the photos for Joyce's book because she had these beautiful tree photos and looking at all of them, and then she'd come in, she'd be like, look at these. She had been up early and she had taken these gorgeous more gorgeous photos. Like it was just such an embarrassment of riches. It was very difficult to narrow it down because there were so many wonderful choices. So I think there were images in that book that you've done, 10 years ago, but then also perhaps a few that were much more recent. So,
We
Yes.
have two technical questions. One of them is about how images are made on gold leaf, and the other is, were these images printed on gold leaf? And I, again, encourage you to go to the Haas Gallery and see the original works of art that are hanging on the wall, where you can see the texture of the material beneath the images. But I'm curious, Joyce, if you want to talk about just the technical process of making an image, and then I want to ask you a question about what Claire raised around the emotive elements and the spiritual in these images. But first, the technical, which I know you were a master of.
Well, I do like problem solving. And when I start a new project, I do want to break some new ground and force myself to to try to do something that's never been done before. And that's really what I was trying to explain, earlier in this discussion, is that, and I think that you have a class in Orotone, and the instructor actually came to my studio last year and asked me a lot of questions about how I was working and all of that. So, I always enjoy being a mentor, and so I was able to help her, find some new ways of working in her medium, and I think what goes around, comes around, and it's my joy to be a mentor to many people who have ideas, and because I have been around a long time and I am a problem solver, I enjoy helping others.
But to be clear, the prints in the book are not using the
No, they're
gold
not.
leaf.
No.
Right.
Archival pigment prints on a metallic paper. So that is giving you the impression. To do it all in gold leaf would be impossible.
Right.
And I'll just jump in right quick on that spiritual question, which I know you have more you want to say, Joyce, but you mentioned Byzantine icons several times, and I'm Greek Orthodox, which is a religion, and I'm not the priest's favorite Greek Orthodox person, but that icon, the idea of the icons, and I'll just say this right quick, is that they are windows to the divine. That is really the idea, that they're not like idols. You're not worshiping because you kiss an icon, you kiss them. That's what you're supposed to do. And so I do think you really pick that up in your tree photographs, that sense of a window to the divine. And I expect you'll have more you want to say on that.
Absolutely. You awakened my favorite church in the world, which is in Paris, and it is Greek Orthodox, and it's right across from Notre Dame. And I just bumped into it, really, walking around, and couldn't believe the amount of gold in that, in a very intimate, smaller church, where I really did, and I went to a lot of their events. The event isn't the right word, Claire. Help me out on this. Their
Services.
Yeah, but that they wouldn't call them services. But at any rate, it was, I always felt that magic happened, and that if I were able to be open and really allow myself to go with them on their journey, that it would be like a miraculous day. That's for sure. Makes me want to go back to Paris and see that again.
Well, we all think your photographs are miraculous journeys, Joyce.
Well, thank you.
I'm actually picking bits of gold that are coming off on her
Gold
pants.
is flaking on.
She's turning into gold.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. Lisa Ennis, of course, asked, will gold trees be up in the gallery through June 6th or coming down on June 6th? It is going to run through June 6th, at which time, at the end of the day, we'll begin closing that exhibition. So you have until that day to come see it. And I really hope you will come join us.
And just
And
to note, just to make sure that people realize that the gallery is open during office hours. So Monday through Friday between 9 and 5.
that's right.
And
That's right.
I'd love to be there on the 6th, Michael, if that works for you and your staff and all of that, for at least part of the day. Be my pleasure to be there and celebrating, this closure of before we open up on something new.
Of course, I would. You have an open invitation anytime, Joyce. Of course, I think you know how to find us since we're neighbors, and
Absolutely.
you can come anytime.
Okay,
So
great. We'll talk
it'd be
more.
outstanding. Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I really appreciate your time and your interest, and um, thank you, Joyce, so much for the work that you've contributed and the sort of epiphanies that you've shared with us. It really means a lot as someone who really appreciates photography and images and art and poetry and books. You've been really important to all of us, so thank you.
And you all have been very important to me. So how wonderful that we had time today. Thank you very much.